Let's talk about the grammar piece. What has changed over time? So we're going to highlight just a few things that have changed and talk about why. So grammar and English changes. We assume that the English that we grew up with will be the English we die with, and that's not true. So the word tomorrow back in the early 1900s was to and morrow. In the 1930s, it became to-morrow. And then it merged in the 60s to tomorrow. So there's this sense that words transition. The word internet was always capitalized early on in the early 80s and even in the 90s because it was a proper noun. But now internet has become so common that it is no longer a proper noun, it's a common noun, so it's lowercase. So things change over time. We add in the factor of texting and some of those things, and we're starting to see sentences get shorter. We're starting to see people pause less often in their writing. So we see commas going away. Semicolons are going away because typically it joins two really long sentences together. And what we want to do is we want a sentence that's 15 to 18 words. I'm not going to tack on a semicolon and an extra sentence. I'm going to put a period and I'm going to start a new sentence. So things change over time. What ends up happening is Webster's hires a group of people. They go out and they read things, they evaluate things. They start to identify trends in kind of the everyday writing and in the news. We start going, oh, I saw that in that article. That's interesting. Can you add a dash there? Wow, I would have used a comma. That's interesting. They're using a dash. And they start to see these changes and they start to introduce them as like secondary grammatical definitions or abilities. So like the word anxious. I'm anxious to meet you could mean I'm really scared, or it could mean I'm really excited. So depending on where it falls in the dictionary, you'll see both definitions. The same is true for grammar pieces. We start to see secondary definitions. And ultimately, at some point, it tips and we see this change where people go, oh, that's actually the current way of doing that. The other thing that happens is our kids are in the age where they're learning all those grammar rules, especially between 4th and 6th grade, there's a lot of them. So if it ends in a vowel, you do this to make it plural. If it ends in a consonant, it becomes a double consonant or consonant. There's all these words for it and all these rules. But those rules are kind of like the Supreme Court, where you can have people that weigh in on either side of that judgment. So the spelling things that have changed oftentimes are to simplify our writing rather than make it more complex, because they've looked at the rule and they've gone, oh, I could read it that way, or I could read it that way. Starting to see some changes. So let's highlight some of those. And here are some of the spelling changes, things that have changed for us. The word benefited has one T in it. Benefited has one T. Canceled has one L, not two. Canceled has one L. Cancellation still has two. Judgment, GM in the middle of it, like the American-made car, GM, not GEM, which is a British spelling at this point. Labeled has one L, and sizable no longer has an E in it.
Webster?
This is Webster. This is Webster. Now, it's frustrating to us and we're like, what the heck? But again, we're not the first people to experience this. We just feel like the first people who've ever experienced it.